pant, aside from the opening, they are non-gender specific because they are all going to have this exact same silhouette. So with that, you will have these are your legs, and you'll have a left front, a right front, and then you'll have two backs. Okay. The only difference is going to be the opening direction. Opening on women's is always on the right, men's is going to be on the left. Now, let's take a look at all of the components that make up a pair of pants and figure out why are these, is this pair of pants $150? All right, starting out with the top. This, we're going to call it a waistband. Now, when it comes to a waistband, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It goes around the waist, which means at your natural waistline, it goes above the waist. Actually, I'm going to get another dress form. It will be more. No, I can do it right here. I'm going to do it right here on the board.
Yes, I can.
Here we have our natural waistline, and that is where all of your garments are going to set. If the garment itself sets below the natural waistline, what are we going to call it?
Lower.
Low rise. Low rise. Low rise. If we go above the waistline, it's a
high rise.
There you go. All right, so this is your natural waistline. The waistband, whether it be on skirts or pants, the waistband is going to set at the natural waistline, or it's being draped at the natural waistline and goes above the natural waistline. Then the garment itself is going to be draped from the natural waistline down and over. And that's where the waistband fits. It sits at the natural waistline. Now, things will change when we go into fitting. You'll understand that, and the reason you're going to understand that is, can you see the way this is dipping down? That has to do with, we're going to go into male and female anatomy and how we do the draping on the men's and women's. But for this class, and for forever and always, natural waistline is where the waistbands are going to go. In this case, this waistband is a two-piece waistband because there's a seam in the back. Women's wear does not always have that because the waistband in women's wear is just a continuous piece. It's a one continuous piece that's folded in half, and then the garment is set into the seam allowance. How's your mom? Okay. So, the outside, and this is in menswear, the outside is the waistband. Right here, on the inside right here, in both skirts and pants, we have this piece that is extended past center front. This is called your extension. And the extension is always on the inside. It's not seen. On the outside, right here, this piece right here, this is your tab. Okay? in a minute, you'll understand why I'm calling this an extension, because in sometimes we're gonna see an extension, but we're not gonna see anything sewn into the extension, and in this case, we are gonna have things sewn into it. On the outside, we have our anchor button. This is what you're gonna run. We just grab one of those button charts off from somebody's desk, please. Okay, Richard, we're taking your.
For sure.
So. All right, so here is your button chart. Take the button. Take the button, run it all the way down until it lands on the correct circle. In this case, that says L24. That means it is a 24-line button. In this case, we have to describe it completely because buttons come in 3 different anchors: 2-hole, 4-hole, and shank. Do you know what I mean by shank? Does anybody not understand the term shank? Tell me now so I can show it to you. You do not understand shank. All right, when we have a shank button, the button doesn't have holes drilled through it. It can be flat, it can be rounded, it can be a full ball, but underneath, we have this piece sticking out from the button that we sew through it. All right? This is called a shank, so these are shank buttons. So regardless of whether it's a flat button or a shank button, you're still going to find the size. In this case, we have a 4-hole, 24-line shank, 24-line button. The only time you have to tell me if it's a shank is if it doesn't have holes. Then obviously it is a shank button, but they'll either be 2-hole or 4-hole. Okay? All right, so now we know what, Richard, I'm gonna pass this back over to you so it doesn't get lost. So we have an outside decorative anchor button. On the inside, we have just a plain 4-hole, 24-line anchor button on the inside. These that we see right here, that we put our belt through, what are you going to call them? All right. Remember, there's nothing fancy in fashion. If it's a loop, it has to make a full loop. Like right here. Here we've got a loop that's going to be carrying the sash. In this case, what I just said now, it's carrying the sash. These are carrying the belts. These are called carriers. Belt carriers. So if they're flat and sewn in, carriers. If they make a complete loop, just like on your blouses you had button loops, it has to be a loop. All right? Down the front, we have our first type of zipper. When it comes to zippers, whether it be male or female, we refer to it as a fly, F-L-Y. Now this is different than the zippers that I showed you, that you have 3 different kinds. You have an invisible, a lapped, and a centered zipper. This is none of the same. This is a fly because the extension, and a lot of people will confuse this as being a lapped zipper because the fabric laps over. It is not. It is completely different because the entire structure inside changes. It is, in order to install this zipper, we have a lot of different things happening. When it comes to a regular plain zipper, which we'll go into when Tootsie Pop gets here, it's actually just set into the
You slid that in there.
I should not talk that way. Don't listen to me. It's just. Anyway,
Make sure to settle it down when she gets here.
so we have this fly. Now, when it comes to a fly, there are two different types of flies. If we have one that has no bells and whistles, at this point, you should be able to tell me, we're gonna call it what kind of a fly. If it has no bells and whistles.
Standard.
Thank you. It's a standard fly, which means when you open it up, this piece right here, that's sewn into the extension, and now you can really see how it is. Extension goes from center front, that's where your zipper is, center front. Anything that goes past center front is an extension on the inside, which means you can't see it when it's buttoned up, all right? But you see how this is just a straight piece of fabric? Now, why do you think we're putting this piece of fabric on a pair of pants? Is it, I'm sorry? Yes, for what reason? Okay, you're there again. Why are we worrying about the skin? Or any fabric that's underneath it that might snag? The zipper. It's to prevent the zipper from doing anything, snagging, cutting into you. So because this is preventing it, we call this a zipper shield. And when we just have this plain shield, it's a standard, all right. Then we go into the more complicated. So we have a standard fly, a standard fly. And then if we're gonna go into more complicated, obviously it's gonna become a French fly. Try and say that 5 times fast. French fly, all right? Now the French fly is gonna be different. Instead of it just being a straight shield like this, and we see this primarily in menswear, rarely do we see it in women's wear. Once in a while, if a designer wants to get really extravagant. We have this extended piece that goes out, and what that ends up doing is the fly, and we have this problem, ladies, I'm sure you have it all the time, where the shield keeps folding back and crunching under. All right, what this does is a dressier, the anchor button on the inside holds the fly flat, and it also controls the front of the garment. So there are your two flies, standard and French. All right?
Never used that one.
And with a French fly, we obviously have a buttonhole, and on the inside we have an anchor button. Now, when we go into skirts, I'm going to talk about pleating. And you already know that when it comes to pleats and tucks, a tuck has a beginning, and you can really see it on these pants. The tuck has a beginning and goes to 0. It vanishes. That way we know these are 2 tucks. But here, I have the tuck, but I have this crease going all the way down the leg. That makes this a pleat because it has a beginning and an end. Okay? So that makes this a pleated pair of pants. Then we have something to put our hands into, which is our pockets. For fashion, we've really got 3 primary styles of pockets. Your most plain Shimon, would you stand up, please? Okay. No, nothing. All right. Well, we'll start with this one. You see the pocket here where it's in the seam? This is your in-seam pocket because it's in the seam. Then we have this pocket right here. This is called a slash pocket, and actually it's a Western style slash pocket because it starts here and curves around. Now in dress wear, thank you, we will have a pair of pants that will start here. Starts here about an inch away from the side seam, goes in and cuts right to the side seam. This is called a slash pocket. Inseam, Western style, and slash pocket.
So the Western style and the slash are different?
Yes, because the shape is different. With a Western style, it's coming down here, starts here, and it curves.
Okay.
You know what, I'll sketch it up that everybody can see it.
Yeah,
That's what I was confused. It's like a.
All right, we have a seam, and we'll see a type of a top stitch going over here, and we'll see that the opening is here. This would be our inseam pocket. A Western style, got our waistband, got our fly. The Western style will start here and curve this way to the side seam. Then the more dressy of those, we've got our side seam, our waistband, our fly. It'll start about an inch, inch and a quarter away from the waistband and go into a straight line right there. That is your slash pocket. And your fourth is really your more expensive. It's a lot more complicated. Nope, not this time. Not this time. Each one of these pieces of fabric has to be sewn into the cut, so it's been slashed into it, but it's not a slash pocket, because each one of these pieces is called a welt, W-E-L-T. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like the welt seam, where we did the welt seam. So these are welt pockets, and you have to identify them by the number of welts, either on one side or both sides. If we have only one welt, it would be a single welt pocket. If we have two, it's a
Double.
very good. So here we have welt pockets. In the back we have welt pockets. Here we have our slash pockets. And let's see. Oh my God, we've got a zanella. And zanella. We've got one that's chaps, so let's see. Kayla, you get the zanella. And then we also have Yves Saint Laurent.
Ooh. I'll dig it.
You want that? You want to do this one? Do you want to cut it? Or-
We're gonna cut that.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, I'm ripping this apart. You're gonna see the pants, and
Hey, what
we're
size
also
is that
going,
before
when
we
we do
get to
jackets,
cutting?
I'm gonna cut apart the jackets. I do have periodically, I have students that collect labels. Is anybody collecting labels in this class?
The tag.
You take it?
I'll-
All right, remind me when we cut these apart.
Lucky.
Can I get the pants label?
The pants label? Yeah.
Yeah, let me get the pants one.
All right.
Bad.
Well, there's no label in the pant because it's a suit. But we have the chaps and we have the Zanella. All right, so let's go through all of the components. We've really gone through the outside. Now, these, what I've told you about the pockets, the slash, the Western, the welt, the inseam, that is the pocket. This is not the pocket. This is the pocket bag. And the reason we're identifying it the pocket bag is because in a pocket, we can have more than one things happening on the inside. In this case, When we put our hand down, we have the pocket bag, and in there we have this little coin pocket. This is for coins. This is-
Really? That's so extra.
You didn't
I've
find
never
this.
known that.
I'll bet you if you put your hands in your dress pants, you will find that in
No,
your
I
pants.
find it. I just never
Habitat
knew that
pants.
that was the purpose of that.
It's
I just
hard to get
put
stuff
coins.
out of there though.
I was gonna
Quite
say,
hard.
how can you
Yeah.
get the pennies?
It's
Quarter
like
and nickels out of
turn my
there.
pants upside down.
Hmm?
Yeah, all right.
This is a pocket bag,
No, it's
and
like
then,
a
yes, you do have to
pocket
identify the pocket bag.
Pants they got.
And this is a coin pocket. Now, not all pants will have it. Your casual pants like jeans, they won't have it. But in your dressier pants, your better pants, they're gonna have this extra pocket for what it's actually, it was put in for coins because of, men carrying coins in their pocket all the time, and it keeps it together instead of jangling around. All right? So we've got left front, right front, two back. We have a two-piece waistband with an extension and a tab. We have a French shield. We have a, what kind? If this is a French shield, what's the other one?
Standard.
Standard. Okay. We have these little things that are holding the belt called carriers. This is a two-piece as opposed to a one-piece waistband. And we have our pocket and our pocket bag. And on the inside of some of the pants, the pocket bag will have a coin pocket. Now, when we go on the inside, we are no longer going to have a waistband. This is called a facing. So this would be a waistband facing. And the facing is going to be composed of a lot of different products, a lot of different components.
Really, Haley?
Good. It's a weapon.
It's like
Where are my designers? Where are my designers?
here.
Hold up your scissors. All right. What fabric are we supposed to be using then? Would we normally be cutting fabric with that set of scissors? I don't want a name, I want a style. Heavy. Wools. Coat, your thick piles, that's for that. All right, so we have our waistband. Now the facing rather. The facing in this case is composed of three different components. At the very top, this piece right here, I'll lay it down. At the very top right here, we have our apron. Now, is there anybody that doesn't know what an apron means? If we have an apron, if a woman is wearing, you don't know what an apron is.
Oh, well, it covers.
If a woman is wearing an apron, she has covering over, you know, it's something,
Right.
all right? Well, that's where this is coming from. This is your apron, because it goes around the waist. This, however, is a different kitchen appliance. This piece that goes over, that is loose, this is called a curtain. So when you're doing this, if you think kitchen, Mom wears an apron in the kitchen, or Graham wears an apron in the kitchen. And in the kitchen windows, we have curtains. So we have an apron and a curtain. This different color piece right here, and not all pants will have it, but this piece right here, this is called a stay, or a curtain stay. And the reason it's called a stay is because it does exactly what it says. It's put in there to make sure that whatever you have tucked in stays tucked in. It doesn't allow it to slide out. This piece right here, this little red piece right here.
Could you hold it up? Cause I can't
Oh,
see
I'm
it
sorry.
when you're talking about it.
There you go.
So,
Apron, curtain, and the middle part is your stay. So in your case, you have an apron,
which is
the blue, the curtain, and the red is your stay. What do you have?
Okay. We have the apron.
And no stay. And no stay, all right? So sometimes you'll have it, sometimes you won't.
Will it always be a different color?
Not always. And actually, sometimes you'll have, oh gosh, what's that sticky substance that's,
What is that?
Adhesive
Well,
tape.
they put it in women's dresses and along the
Oh,
way.
fabric tape?
Yeah.
Stay tape?
Yeah, I don't know.
Seam tape?
No, it's a type of seam tape, but what is it called?
I saw it at the fabric store. I know what you're talking
Oh
about,
my
but I
God,
forgot
what
the
is it?
tape. It's
It's like
so
two-sided,
It helps with the dresses, like strapless dresses won't fall down.
like you stick it
Oh, I call
on.
it
You know, you
resin.
usually wear
It's
during
not resin.
prom.
It's silicone.
Oh.
Silicone tape, so sometimes you'll have a silicone tape on it, but that becomes a curtain stay. All right, now, that's just the covering of the facing. On the inside of the facing, we've got a lot of different product. First of all, the waistband itself will have some type of interfacing, whether it be something or fusible. But then, to make the waistband rigid, stay up and hard, we're gonna have different layers of this type of product, which is very stiff, which is what we're gonna call buckram. Sometimes you'll hear the term horsehair buckram, because originally we used to make it out of horsehair.
How do you spell that?
Buckram. All right, so let's see exactly what this looks like. Wait a minute, before we do that, let's take a look at the seams. Before we take that apart, I want you to take a look at the seams. Because now we've got a whole nother seam. At this point, you have how many different seams? You have your, that's location. Now you're talking location. The names of the seam, not the location, the names of the seams. Lane, you have first your overlock knit seam. Then you have your plain seam. You have your
Welt
Flat
seam.
felt.
flat felt,
French.
French,
Welt.
welt, mock flat. All right, now instead of having both of the seam allowances together, we are stitching them and we're pressing them open and we're cleaning the outside either with this, the overlock, or in some cases, I think yours is done with yeah, right there, right there, you can see right there in the center back.
This?
That's right. The seam allowance is covered over with binding. I told you, you're never gonna get away from binding. It's gonna be all over the place. That is called, that's right, that is called a Hong Kong seam, when we put binding on it. When it is pressed open like this and just overlocked, we call it a butterfly, pressed open or butterfly seam. All right, now, exactly what happens when we do that? Come over to the machine here.